Chapter 9. Swing. For the next 2 days, Gunn's state of mind was compromised by that Tuesday afternoon. He thought deeply about what to wear, where to be to avoid making a complete fool of himself, and if he had enough for the fare back. Once he was paid that Thursday, all those concerns were put to rest into the following evening. Gunn waited outside of his complex, brushing the titanium white wig to finish his costume, darting his attention to the streets for the taxi. Before long, he could see Tove stick her head out the window, driving toward him.
Wow, you really are coming, and I thought you'd make an excuse up.
She joked, before scooting back to let him slide into the car. He snorted, putting the wig on before shutting the door.
I said I'll come every time you asked. Sheesh.
He examined her attire, trying to piece together exactly what she was dressed as.
Huh? A succubus?
Tove shook her head, spreading her arms to show her bat-like wings.
I'm Crimson Chiro, savior of the Maroon Caverns and tormented by the demon Nocturnae. I even jeweled my fishnets, see?
She extended her leg over his lap, the proximity making him ruby.
I see. It's well sculpted. I mean made. Must have taken hours.
He muttered as she folded her leg back into her lap.
Thanks. So, what are you?
Just a demon slayer. Nothing really intricate or deep. Had it for a while.
Oh, it suits you.
She chuckled before her phone rang. She put a studded claw up as she answered, Gunn turning to the window to wait. He watched flurries of polyester-coated pedestrians flutter the streets, twirling bags and baskets in the grass. He wasn't certain it was the sunset radiating the decorated storefronts, or the pumpkin spice air freshener, but something about the night put him at ease.
I'll let them know. Give Eon my regards. Bye.
Tove held up the phone, sighing deeply. Gunn looked to see her change in mood.
What happened?
Tove sniffed, crimpling her sash.
One of my dancers got hit by a car. They say she didn't get anything fatal, but her feet are broken.
Gunn reluctantly rubbed her back to comfort her.
I'm sorry to hear that. What's that gonna mean for your dance?
Well, we only have 4 dancers at the moment, so it'll be awkward with just the 3 of us, but we'll manage.
She muttered, whimpering softly. Gunn swallowed his breath. He'd never seen a sadder sight in his life. He'd only known Tove for a few days, but she made such a big fuss over this dance that it's just cruel for tragedy to strike so quickly. He thought long and hard about the outcomes before opening his mouth.
I'll do it.
Tove wiped her eyes, looking at him with disbelief.
What?
He blew the cold anxiousness from his body before looking her dead in the eyes.
I said, I'll do it. Just don't cry. And don't be too disappointed, alright?
Her face was dumbfounded, almost like she came out of a dream.
Gun?
She reached for his elbow, pinching it.
Ow. Hey, what was that for?
He huffed, rubbing it. She gasped softly before she clinged to his side, chanting things into his costume.
Alright, Chiro. No conjuncts now.
He respired with a smile, rubbing her head. Soon, the cab made it to the campus, and the two ran to the cafeteria to rehearse. It didn't take very long for the cafeteria to be filled with spookily garmented people dining and chatting amongst themselves, including a space-clad trio, swapping treats on the floor.
I want your sweet cakes, chocolate pies, and star gummies,
exclaimed O, pawing at Kim's pile. Kim chuckled as Woong sat behind them with Songpyeong.
All right, but I want your milk and lychee candy.
Deal.
She threw the candy at him, Kim catching every piece before they swept it back into their respective baskets to come sit next to Woong.
You got the good ones?
Woong asked O, who scarfed her rice cakes.
Oh, the best, Mama. Mr. G only eats boring candy.
She mumbled in her stuffed mouth. Woong chuckled.
Aren't you lucky? We'll open it up when we get home, okay?
O nodded in response before scarfing more cakes. Woong looked over at Kim affectionately, scooting closer.
Thanks for giving away your good treats. O can be a little greedy sometimes.
She whispered. Kim shook his head, grabbing a rice cake.
I actually don't really like those candies. Too sweet for my taste.
Woong raised her brow, impressed with his pure intentions.
Oh, what candies do you like then?
Kim looked at Woong, smiling softly.
I like soothing, fragrant candies. They can be sweet sometimes, but for the most part, they just have to make me feel safe and happy before they're gone.
Woong smiled, rubbing his gloved hand.
I'll remember when you come by again.
She flinched, feeling his embrace.
Only when you let me.
He muttered, as she hugged him back, sighing happily. Near the end of the party, the music stopped, and the lights changed to a damask tint. Shifting to the makeshift stage, the guests clamored, congregating toward the stage, as the music gradually grew louder and louder. Lights shifted to the stage, illuminating the dance crew posed. Before Tove in the center pranced out to dance, signaling the other dancers to join in. The crowd bobbed alongside the performance, some even copying the zestful steps. Gunn looked at Tove, hearing the music getting closer to the end. She said she wanted to do a swing dance she came up with to lead to the end. He took a breath before pirouetting to her, holding his hand out. She smiled, taking his hand while leading the steps before rocking them, changing partners to reciprocate before ending it with a pose as the music died down. The gathering cheered as the dancers took their bow. The bash soon dissolved after a few dances and sweeps, making sure the whole cafeteria was spotless before the after-party. Kim and Woong told Gunn they were heading back to her place for a monster marathon before OoOo goes to sleep, leaving Tove and Gunn to enjoy the spirit-filled evening at Heaven's Bowl. The bar was the first to be crowded once 9:59 struck. Gunn practically had to wave between people to get a drink for him and Tove. After a long wait, Gunn grabbed the drinks, looking for Tove. He found her speaking to the dancers in the corner booth, walking over.
A little wine for a job well done,
he said, setting the glass before her. Toad chuckled, clinking his glass before taking a sip.
Give yourself a little credit. You helped a lot.
Gunn shook his head, smiling.
That's all I wanted to do. Really. Happy Halloween, Tove.
He dismissed himself, walking back. Two of the dancers looked smugly at each other.
I think I'm gonna go do some stretches. You two coming?
One said, as the others nodded nearly in unison, for moseying off in fits of giggles. Tove got up to come with, but one of the dancers gestured to stay put. Tove blushed, looking over at Gunn sitting at the bar. Her glass stood beside his hand before she hefted herself on the bar stool. Gunn looked over at her, surprised.
Crew left?
He asked, before taking a swig.
Something like that. Said they have to stretch, but we did that before we left the campus.
Gunn tilted his head, beginning to piece together why they left.
Oh. Well, why didn't you join?
Tove reddened, looking away.
I tried, but they said to stay.
She looked at him.
So, can I hang with you?
Gunn's face flamed, swallowing his sip.
Yeah. Hang with me. Just don't take any of my blood. Deal?
Tove snickered, licking his glass again.
Deal.
The night dwindled toward dusk as their glasses faded toward their senses. The inhibitions had a limit, starting with Gunn's wallet as it was cutting into his fare money. So the two jutted their way into a cab, singing and laughing like a pair of fools. Once the cab stopped abruptly, Tove fell on top of Gunn. Gunn, with a bit of a sense, did his best to adjust her to the other side, but she didn't budge. She gazed into his eyes, inching closer to his face, before planting a kiss on it. His face reddened, tasting her sweet breath.
You gonna let me out or keep the tab running?
He muttered. She bit her lip.
Well, why not go upstairs together?
Gunn raised his brow before fingering for his card, ending the fare before kissing her back. The stairs weren't an option at this point, so they stumbled into the elevator, but nearly forgetting his floor. He tottered toward the door, embracing and petting, snickering and debating, until they reached a place to express their rhythmic patterns, until the beat was gone into the night tide. In the break of the morning, Gunn came to, feeling around to find his guest not there anymore. He slowly propped himself up, hearing a strange sound. When his eyes opened, he saw Tove staring out the window with a red glow in her eye. He muttered,
Tove?
before her head whipped over to look at him, her gaze being the last thing he saw before darkness.